Hello, everyone, again. So today's conversation is going to be about media encryption and port protection and an overview of the policy. As mentioned in the other videos, we're going to go through these policies first, and then we're going to show little demos of every one of these in future videos. But to make them quick and short, we kind of broken them up into little chunks, depending on what you're looking for. So underneath the media encryption, you've got a variety of options that you can do. Again, similar to full disk encryption, you can come in here and build out your own media encryption policy for whatever targeted systems you were doing. Every policy can target, of course, different machines. So if you have a policy that you are wanting for marketing, financing, executives, you can go through and each can have their own individual policy based on whatever criteria you've defined. Each policy section has all these areas, the top three, including the advanced down here, depending on what you're doing, who you're targeting, depending on, again, your users and computers, if you've done a directory scan, or if you're just using the devices with our initial agent on there, and its policy versioning to help you do some troubleshooting. So you can allow any data to be read from storage, only encrypted data, or do not allow reading from storage devices. It just depends on what you're doing in regards to it. You can also similarly edit any of these actions to help you kind of go through and view them. So again, allow reading of encrypted and unencrypted devices that you can go override. So if you want a device to override this particular policy, you can add said device to it. And again, it gives you some flexibility. So if you have some iron keys or things of that nature that you don't want and us doing anything, you can simply add the devices, or you can create your own device going through our wizarding functionality, and you can use it discovered from our logs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then, or you can manually configure a little bit a device by giving us the device name, category, serial number, device ID, things of that nature that we can capture. And it gives us that unique information about said device that we can add to our override policy section here. So you can give them some options that are available for you. Okay? And this is our, Checkpoint Go devices. Encrypt business-related devices written to storage. Encrypt all devices written to storage. Do not allow any devices and ask user when trying to write devices. So again, depending on what you're trying to do, if you want to encrypt all devices, whether it's business or non-business related, this is a great way to do that. If you are looking for business-related devices written only, you can go into the actions as well too. You can see here, encrypt all device, all data, block any data, allow any data encrypt. And if you're going to do business-related, you can come into the configure and decide on what you want to do. So you can choose the mode. In this particular instance, non-business related, other files will be considered business. So whatever you put down here was considered non-business, and anything else will be considered business, or vice versa. If you wanted to do business model, these are all the things that are business related. Anything else outside of this group would be considered non-business related. So it just depends on which way you want to approach the situation from left to right. And you can come in here and you can add additional ones that you want from our pre-listed, or you can create your new one here, giving it a color, file extension, adding any signatures that you may want associated with the file, if you're trying to do file aspects of it as well too. So again, some flexibility depending on your business type and what you want from an encrypted perspective. My recommendation has always been, if you're going to do it, put it on just basically encrypt all devices. There's no point in separating business or non-business, especially when you're doing by file type, or if you're doing a specific file and you don't want that file copied, or that file is copied. It's a little bit more overhead. If they put it on a USB stick, go ahead and encrypt it onto that drive. And then you've got some other options here. Allow encryption, allow user to create their own encrypted storage, additional settings. You can come in here, change the encryption capacity, allow user to remove encryption, allow user to upgrade from legacy drives. A variety of options in here that allow you to, again, granularly kind of configure this particular policy if you wanted to. Allow deletion of files on read-only devices or not. This is our user checks. You can, again, do little pop-ups, allow user to override company policy, by providing justification. So if it is something that you want them to kind of say, yes, I know, but I'm going to override this policy because of X, Y reasons, then you can kind of do that as well. So now you've got a log of that. And same thing as before, what devices are going to override this particular policy. You can see allow encryption, not allow encryption. You've got some options that are available to you there. And the basic ones is just your normal keyboards, which are the essential devices you're going to lock and not allow. And you can, again, go through and configure these, allow Bluetooth, you want to allow or block Bluetooth devices, Bluetooth radio, USB, Bluetooth printer, USBs. What do you want to do with all of these? And you can kind of come through and decide on whether you want to add or, allow or block. And if there's a device not listed in here, you can come in here and simply go through the process of selecting some of our predefined ones or creating your own. And again, same process, discover from user logs or configure manual devices. User logs is preferred, and towards the end of this video, I'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Okay, and then other things in here, allow offline access of storage devices, do not offline. Again, same concept. If you allow them to access the offline, we give them a little executable that's put onto the USB stick that they can double click on, and it'll prompt them for a password. And then they can access the drive and, of course, close it out. So again, it's a great option if you want to allow them to access any data offsite or off of a machine that does not have the Checkpoint media encryption solution onto there. Require storage devices to be scanned or authorized. So again, you can go ahead and basically scan the device using your AV solution. Again, scan storage and authorize them for access. You can authorize or unauthorized devices if you wanted to kind of add into them as well, email, database, things of that nature. What is accessible, what is not accessible. If you don't want, let's say, USB devices onto, if you don't want executables on a USB stick, then we can say, you know what, not allowing executables kind of scenario. And again, you can see here, allow users to delete unauthorized files. So again, it's just another option that is available to control what is on the USB stick when we scan it to determine, hey, you shouldn't have any executables on there. If you do, you're going to have to delete them. Just in case they're trying to do something with those executables, or those executables are corrupt or something of that nature. And then, of course, you can exclude optical media scans as well, too. Logs, critical events, obviously, you want to log in and do some sort of checks against it, only events, only critical events, depending on what you're trying to do. But obviously, the more detailed logs you have, the better. Allow access storage devices, encrypted only in current site. So what you can do is, if you have two sites, two business entities that are using the Checkpoint media encryption solution, each site can go ahead and exchange the keys within each other. So that way, someone going from site A to site B can plug in the USB stick, and it would be just like they're in their home network, and vice versa. So it gives you some options that are flexible if you have a sister site and you trust those that are going back and forth between those sites by plugging in USB sticks. And you can, copy to clipboard, send it to the administrator, and they do the same thing, vice versa. And you can come in here and then potentially add an existing or adding a new server name, and then, of course, the ID that they provide you here as well. And it would add that server into here, and it allows then the communication and the trust between the two management servers. And then, of course, here, if you want to make it fully accessible for all users, this can be something that, let's say, an executive policy. So you can come in here and say, for an executive policy, I'm only going to allow the encrypted media owners to be of a particular part of a group, or I can come in here and add additional ones and say, okay, only users are in groups by this particular OU or this particular container or organization. I can do that. So that way, if an executive USB stick is lost, you don't have it to where it says, everyone has full access to it. So John Doe can just plug it in. That works for that organization. And all of a sudden, John Doe can read that executive's USB stick content. We can narrow the scope down to only those that are allowed to have access to the device. So it gives you some flexibility into that. The solutions obviously have a variety of testing and a variety of options that are available, but it does give you some flexibility on what you're trying to do. So hopefully that gives you some insight as to how the media encryption works, and then we'll come back with another video. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.